Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come down to the campfire for this short rest. With me and my friend, Tales of Pesh! Beep, 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 beep. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's great to have you here.
No, thank you. Thank you for. It's nice to be up this early on a Saturday morning. So
Hey, you picked the time.
I did, yeah. So
I am not a morning person myself, so I don't have a great deal of fun getting up early. But hey, that's fine for me at this time. This time's 10 a.m. for me because the clock's changing and everything.
yeah. We've got that coming this weekend. So
You excited for PAX? That's next weekend. You gonna
I
be
am.
there?
Yeah. No, it's gonna be good. I particularly enjoy PAX because I live in Melbourne, but I'm a Sydney boy, so
All right.
PAX is a good time of year. Just a lot of my Sydney friends will fly in. Oh, well, actually, my friend group have scattered all over the country, but yeah, we kind of all fly into Melbourne and gather on the
Good
PAX
opportunity
day.
to
Yeah,
actually catch up with people that you haven't seen in a
yeah.
while.
So,
Yeah.
so it's not just PAX itself, but everything that happens around it is it's a very fun weekend. It's one of the weekends of
Yeah.
the year. So
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to it for similar reasons. Like I know so many Australian streamers and D&D people, friends that I just don't get to meet up with in person. So I'm like,
yeah.
get a chance to actually see everybody.
Yeah, it's quite awesome. And it sounds like PAX is going to be a bigger event this year, which is good.
Yeah, what makes you say that?
There's a lot more exhibitors and stuff attending,
Right.
and a lot of the bigger video game companies are making a show, actually showing up. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Nice. That's
so,
good. Yeah, a lot of
I think
people
it's-
kind of been a bit dismissive of PAX Oz as one of the PAXs in the past, haven't they? And
Yeah.
This year, I've heard a lot more people from like America being like, "I might get to PAX one day. I'm starting to think I'll go to PAX Oz one day."
yeah,
Maybe
which is
next
good.
year.
I think it's nice to see the resurgence of a big convention because I think COVID just kind of killed
Yeah.
them all off for a
Oh,
little
yeah.
while. So
Yeah, my
yeah,
brother's
it's good.
a carpenter, and he often makes like stalls and stands and things for conventions, mostly like business things around Europe, because he lives in the UK. And he's often hired to go and make stalls and stuff. And he was just sending us to the family chat the other day, like pictures of the latest one he's been working on compared to the one from 2019. And he was like, it was on the rise and on the rise and on the rise, and then now it's like a quarter of the size because everything's online and people
Yeah.
just don't go to the conventions as much anymore.
Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah,
But-
because they can be a hell of a lot of fun. I've only been to a couple myself now. I only really started going last year. I went to one in Auckland called Armageddon, real tiny thing, but quite fun.
Yeah.
And then I went to PAX Australia last year, and then I went to Gen Con this year, and then PAX Australia will be my fourth.
Oh, how was Gen Con?
It was amazing. It was
Yeah.
so huge
Yeah.
though. Like you're not expecting how big it is until you get there.
Yeah.
Like holy shit, it is. Like at one point, I was doing the thing that I was doing with PAX. Like I had the Gen Con app, and I was going like, right, where am I now, and where's my next, where's the next
Yeah.
panel or whatever that I want to go to? Oh, there's a panel on XYZ over in this building that right after this one. Maybe I'll go to that one. That sounds like a fun talk. Where is it? It's a 15-minute walk away.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
like
wow.
still within
Okay.
the venue, because
Yeah,
the
yeah.
venue of Gen Con is like a massive actual like events center, but it's also over the years just expanded outwards to just consume all of the neighbor buildings, like some
Yeah.
sort of expanding blob. And so now the venue includes all of the halls nearby and the community center over here, and like there's a huge stadium, like a football stadium up in the north of it as well, that is now part of the Gen Con centers. And so the app has all of these on it, and it's just like, yeah, I think there was 20,000 different registered events on over the 4 days of Gen Con, and like 80,000 people went or something.
Yeah, it's
And,
definitely
yeah,
one
I
I'd
was-
like to check out one day.
I was up in the top of the sports center for one thing, and the other one was like down here, and I had to like 15-minute walk to get to it. I was like, I'm gonna miss half of the goddamn seminar before I get there. But yeah, amazing, and and I highly recommend to anybody to check out a convention if you're in any way interested. Even just for one day, you can get single day passes that are relatively cheap, and just go check them out. They're a lot of fun. But hey, we're gonna sit down for a short rest and have a little chill around the campfire. So if we are on a short rest, it means that by definition we must have been on some sort of a quest, some sort of a mission. What were we?
Yep.
What were we in the midst of before we needed this short rest?
Oh, I would say we were prospecting.
Oh, nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I think that's
prospecting.
the first time I got that answer. We were
Prospecting for dragon shards.
Oh, I like
Probably,
it.
yeah, deep in
Very
the shadow
appropriate for
marches of
everyone.
Eberron. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. I love it. And we've just been working hard all day. We just need to put the picks down and just
Yeah.
have a little breather. What are we drinking and eating on this short rest?
Oh, all right.
In real life, I've got a bottle of water.
Yeah, well, I got tea. I would say, but I'm a big fan of stouts, so I'd say
Yeah.
being the Eberron setting, I'm sure we would have some cantrip or trick up our sleeve to have a nice chilled frothy stout.
Nice. Cool. So we're sitting around. Have we got a campfire going, or is it like a
Yeah, absolutely.
contained
Yeah.
potbelly stove or anything?
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
So I like to start out a short rest talking about names. So Tales of Pesh. Tell me where that came from. Why Peshy and why Tales of Pesh?
So, I guess I started the whole content creation journey during lockdown, during the COVID lockdown. So, I had returned from Canada, where I was living at the time, to Australia, and
Whereabouts in Canada were you?
I'm the Rockies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in the
Like
town
Banff,
of Banff.
sort of area?
Yeah,
Oh, you were
Banff is where I
love
lived in Banff. Yeah,
How long were you living in Banff?
yeah. Nearly 2 years.
I was there for my
Yeah.
my brother's wedding in 2012.
Oh, where'd you get married?
He got married at I'd be able to find the name of the lodge now, but it was a real beautiful lodge slightly south of Banff, like in Banff, but
Okay.
towards the south side.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
man,
No, there's quite a
crazy
few
that he lived
lodges
there.
down there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge skiing place. I might be going.
Yeah,
back
yeah, I
early
miss it.
next
Well,
year
that's-
for next for a skiing trip.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, yeah. No, I miss it. That's all. Well, that's what I did there. I was a snowboard instructor.
Oh, nice.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I worked at one of the mountains outside town. But yeah, so COVID forced me home from there, and I had nothing to do during lockdown. So except for my PC. So I started playing. I hadn't played Dungeons and Dragons with a lot of my friends for probably that space of time while I lived in Canada. We had a few online games of our regular campaigns, but so we just started playing Dungeons and Dragons a lot because we were all out of the job, all stuck at home, and I just decided to start streaming it. And I fired up my Twitch channel, which hadn't been touched for years. I think I did some video game streaming years before and quickly dropped it because I just found it just found it too much work. And realized the channel name was still The Real Meat Mallet. And I was like, I don't think that's I don't think that's gonna fly for a D&D streamer. So, I ended up just I was at the time I was also trying to think of a moniker to use while I was releasing music. So I ended up settling on Pesh, or Tales of Pesh for the Twitch channel. It's from the Pathfinder setting. There's a nation.
Okay.
There's a nation in the southern continent called Katapesh.
Right.
And they're famous for an export of a cactus, or the juice from a cactus that they use as a narcotic called Pesh. And I just decided to start using that as a word. I know it's come up in my Pathfinder games a lot, the Pesh trade. So
Right.
I ended up going with,
Did
I
you
went with
do
that.
it just because it was a fun word, or did you do it thinking that you would have some sort of content regarding?
No, I just thought it was a fun word. I think at the time I had taught my housemates in Canada, I introduced them to D&D while I was living with them.
Nice.
And I think our first D&D session just involved them just walking around the town of Sandpoint, nowhere near the nation of Catafesh, but looking for some pesh that they could take back to the tavern. So,
Right.
it's that, that when you introduce new people to D&D and that whole concept of you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
and they
and then they suddenly
and
go.
they and then
do this thing."
they spend the entire session just doing something completely
Yeah.
not going to the dungeon. And but I use that. We actually ended up, I have a tattoo on my ankle that says Pesh is life. One of my housemates had doodled on the paper in front of him while we were playing. So yeah, that word is kind of stuck with me for life.
Nice,
So I ended up using it for the Twitch channel, and I just expanded out to the word Peshy for releasing music on Spotify. And which incidentally in Japanese, Peshy is like an onomatopoeia, for
Alright.
the sound that a whisk makes as it taps the side of a
Peshy.
metal bowl.
Peshy, peshy,
Yeah,
peshy.
yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that's what that is.
Yeah, and what about the
Yeah.
real meat mallet? Where did that one come from?
Oh, that was. I used to be a chef. So
Damn, you got lots of
yeah,
stories. Used to be a chef,
time ago,
snowboard instructor,
yeah.
releasing music, D&D now. I
Yeah,
also
that's
saw on your Insta that you were dabbling in computer generated imagery, right? I saw a donut gif that you made or something.
yeah. I have a bit of fun with Blender every now and then. I like to just yeah,
Lots of
I
lots of tastes, lots of different.
yeah, just 'cause when it comes to content creation, I just sort of probably a big problem actually. I just kind of like bounce around between different things, you know what I mean? And
Following what you want.
and look, yeah, you know, there'll be always come back to projects to finish them, but
Yeah,
sometimes it takes a while.
that's still good
'Cause
though.
it's
You
just-
gotta follow what you're interested in, right?
yeah,
Before we
that's
do.
it. Yeah.
And is this just something you do as kind of like a on the side thing, or have you made it into like your full time career content creator?
No, it's just on the side. Yeah, I like while I was out of the job during COVID, obviously I had more
Yeah.
time for it, and I was happy to be making a little bit of money off Twitch or Patreon or
Yeah.
whatever, just on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
side. But now that we're sort of back to the program as usual, I've like settled down the last 12 months, so I'm not traveling anymore. Well, not anytime soon anyway. Like not living and traveling, if you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
right,
So
yeah, I know
like,
what
still
you
be traveling, but no plans to live overseas again anytime soon. So I've settled in Melbourne, and I've gone back to a career in the finance sector, which keeps me very busy during the week. So content
Yeah.
creation is still do it, but not as much time for it anymore. So
You enjoy the finance sector? You enjoy what you do as a day job?
I do, yeah, yeah. No, I actually do. I've the job I've found in Melbourne, I'm extremely happy with, and
That's good.
it's very good. I actually enjoy going to work. I enjoy going to the office
It's
again.
important, isn't it?
So
It's
it is.
great.
Oh, it's
I was
super
talking
important.
to-
Yeah.
I was talking to Ben yesterday on set, one of the Viva guys, and he was just like talking about like streaming and filming and stuff, and like how important it is to just like enjoy what it is you do, because
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's all there is. That's all.
Yeah.
Life. This life is all we've got. This is
Yeah,
it. So
yeah.
like, there's
Yeah.
no more than this. So like, you better enjoy your time while you're here.
Yeah,
'Cause
you
what the hell
need
else are we doing?
you really need to enjoy your job, which is which is good. I've been very lucky in the last 12 months. So,
So-
like
No, go on.
yeah, go on. No, you're fine.
I was just gonna say, like, how did you get into D&D then? How did you you said you were already playing, like you hadn't played a lot while you were
yeah. A long time
over in
ago.
snowboarding, but how did you get into it before that?
I think my first D&D experience was 2010. I think would have been around then. I basically one of my good friends introduced me to it. He'd been talking about I think he'd been playing for a few years, and I think we were just a few of us were over his place one night, and he was like, let's I want to run D&D for you guys. So
Just
he
like
got
on
out
the spot, spur of the moment.
yeah.
Nice,
So
nice.
he got out the 4th edition red box.
All right.
I played the wizard in the red box. And I think I was just hooked from there. I think within 6 months within 6 months I was
First experience was 4th edition, eh?
yeah. Which to be honest, I've gone really nostalgic for it lately. I've been
Nice.
like, man, I could really play some 4th edition. I think I think it's been long enough. But
I mean, hey, if you ever decide to run a one shot or something in 4th edition,
yeah.
consider me for a player.
Oh, okay.
I've
All right.
been wanting to give it a go for a while.
Oh, really?
People have been
Okay, yeah.
People have said so much about 4th edition. I'm like, I really need to experience it firsthand. Need to see what it was
Yeah.
like. One of the
It's
like,
definitely
people say
a,
a lot of bad things about the edition in general, but the things that come out from it that sound like actually useful stuff is like the diversification of the monsters, and the fact that the monsters were actually interesting and had interesting features and abilities, and the monster stats and stuff were actually usable, and not just the 5th edition. It's a sack of hit points with a claw attack.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like it's very polarizing when people talk about it these days. Usually in a negative way. And I understand why, but it had its merits at least.
Very combat heavy edition, wasn't it? I heard.
It was super combat heavy, and very very tabletop board gamey in the combat design. Like
Right.
every class just operated off these ability cards, basically. Like whether you actually had them in card form or just had the abilities written down. Like, you know, even a warrior would be, or a fighter would have cards to do. He's like, oh, this turn I will use my cleave ability. This turn
encounter ability.
Yeah,
right?
I'll use the cleave ability that I can only for some reason swing my blade once per encounter, and then it had a lot of concepts that I really enjoyed, and
it's interesting that people say bad things about that, but then they enjoy Baldur's Gate, which is they say, oh, it's a D&D video game, but it's very much like you have an ability to cleave, or you have it like if you're wielding a polearm, you can try and trip somebody over, and if you're wielding a crossbow, you can try and piercing strike, and there's once per short rest abilities with specific weapons. And
that's
much like that kind of.
It does, base. Yeah. That's actually that's spot on what Baldur's Gate feels like, actually. Now that I think about it. But yeah, it's good. It was fine.
So you were hooked then? You played for a while? Like
yeah.
Or was it just like once and then you didn't play again for years kind of thing?
No, I played for the last what year is it now? 20. I've been playing D&D as much as I can for the last 12 years. So nice. There was a big gap while I was living overseas because I didn't have stuff to do. And
you have the people around and having to go out and brand new strangers and be like, you want to play D&D?
Yeah.
It's very hit or miss. Either you get some people who are like, yep, instantly friends.
That's
new
it.
Country,
Yeah.
Which is what happened with a friend of mine. She arrived in the country from America. And she went to a board game cafe that I was quite a frequent patron of at the time, and she apparently talked about D&D and looking for a group, and he messaged me and was like, I know so-and-so's just dropped out of your group, are you looking for somebody? Because somebody just walked in, and just brand stranger, she walked in and fast friends almost immediately, she joined the party, and so it can work out well for you, but otherwise I know it can be a bit daunting to be like, I'm in a brand new place, how the hell do I find anybody to play with?
Yeah.
You've been playing D&D pretty much the whole time. Where did your name and everything coming from Pathfinder? When did you start to make the expand out into different TTRPGs?
I think I'd say like I started DMing within I think 6 months of that first experience in 4th edition, and then I ran 4th edition for probably I reckon a good year, maybe a bit more, and then I think just the buzz online, obviously online at the time, the narrative about 4th edition had already kicked in. Like it was everyone was already quite negative about it. Though there was plenty of people were playing it at the time.
Yeah. 4th edition was very much a jump ship edition, wasn't it? Because they went 3.5. Everybody was loving 3.5. 4 came out and people went Pathfinder.
Yeah,
instead,
Pathfinder.
It's like 3.5.
Yeah. And obviously, every time I read something. I would look up a stat block about something from 3.5 or look up a class abilities at 3.5, and I was like, man, this sounds like overwhelming, the amount of detail that was in it. Yeah, and I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff in this. But I think we went on a camping trip with my friend group, and before we left, I went out and I bought the starter box for Pathfinder 1st edition and the starter box for D&D 5e, which had just come out.
Right.
And I think on this camping trip, we gave both a try, and I think we sat on after we played the Pathfinder box, we were like, oh, this is pretty good. This is actually like the possibilities in this are pretty good. So then we ended up adopting Pathfinder for a long time.
With Pathfinder, I know it's very crunchy as well, but they toned it down from 3.5. Like 3.5 was even more crunchy.
I feel like it's almost just as crunchy. I think they made some adjustments for things that quality of life adjustments.
Right.
But Pathfinder 1e is a very, very math heavy game, especially for the DM.
Yeah,
like
I once lost a bet essentially as part of like a charity stream I was doing, and I
remember that. Yeah, and you made a character
I made a goal to be like, if we reach a certain goal, I'll run 3 episodes of a Pathfinder game, and I ran it with Dag and that, and it was a lot of fun. But I only got through it because Dag was on the team, and I was like, I could just defer to him and be like, what am I meant to be rolling for here? How am I meant to be ruling this right now?
Was that first or second edition?
First edition.
Yeah, first edition.
Because
Wow.
while I was
yeah.
because in the lead up to that, I did a bunch of streams of like Robert Reed's streams where I was reading the rules of Pathfinder, and like I was just reading it cover to cover essentially, and he's like, "You're doing this the hardest way possible." Yeah. But people kept coming in and being like, "Why don't you try second edition? Why don't you try?" I was like, "Because I lost a bet." All right. So
That's a good. That's definitely
I enjoyed it though. Like there were certain parts of it that I'm like, it made me wonder why D&D didn't continue with the way that they started, with being like, here's D&D and here's advanced D&D. Like for the people, because you get two very different camps of people in D&D. The people who go, I want rules for if somebody is grappled but they're restrained by a rope, versus different rules for if they're restrained by a web. Like And you get the people who are like, I want rules for all of those things, so I don't have to come up with things. Like if you're sliding down an incline of 45 degrees and there's gravel on it, how much damage should you be taking?
Yeah.
And then you get the other set of people who are like, I don't want the rules in the way. I'll give me a blank book so that I can pretend like I'm looking something up, and then I'll make it up.
Yeah.
And I think like D&D are kind of missing a trick marketing wise to not have advanced 5th edition rules, of just like bring out a bunch of things as a separate rule book that you can buy and just be like, if for the people who really want extra gritty rules, here's your rules. I think there would be people who enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've heard from people on like podcasts and things who have been playing through all of the editions, and they've said that they notice a swing between the editions of like really crunchy, and then the next edition comes out and it's been simplified because people are like, too much crunch, and then they simplify it, and then the people who jump into D&D playing that, they go, I want this to be a bit more crunchy, and so the next edition comes out with more crunch again, and they say like it just kind of swings and roundabouts.
Just goes like that. But yeah, it's definitely as a DM in Pathfinder 1E, I think it's very like your brain is just at 200%, like for 4 hours straight, and it can just be absolutely exhausting by the time you finish a session. So
I was taking the piss out of it quite a lot while I was doing the reading of it, and I was that example I gave about sliding down a thing was a genuine thing in the book. That was like a table for the floor, the terrain of a particular dungeon floor, and it was like. You roll to see how inclined it is, like what sort of incline it is. You roll to see if it's gravel or loose dirt or this or that or the other, and then that gives you a modifier of a +3 from the incline, but a -2 from the dirt. And so you work out from that what the modifier to the jump check will be because of how they're going to jump off of this slidey dirt. I was like, Jesus, all right, who the hell's going to be doing this?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and I think when 5th edition came out, the one like supreme guiding bolt of 5th edition to draw everybody back in and go, holy shit, this is working, was just the advantage. Just being like, look, if you're doing something that gives you some sort of advantage in the situation, like you're jumping from dry ground, advantage on the check. If you're doing something disadvantageous, like jumping from slippy wet ground that's an incline, you're gonna have disadvantage to jump, and then you roll twice.
And then you can have things that cancel each other out at different levels of it. I've got advantage from this and this, but I've also got disadvantage from this, and then there's it was a very good system. The advantage disadvantage, that was actually one of the probably key features that when I did start playing 5e, I was like, this is really good, especially for the DM. Stops you from going crazy.
It's just been like, I'm not gonna look it up, just roll twice and we'll see how it goes. And then there's I love to see the little like remnants in. It's almost like being an archaeologist and seeing like remnants of pottery that you're bringing up, and it's like, oh, this is a relic of past. Like you look at things like the alignment in 5th edition, and it's just not really used in anything mechanically, but it's still there as a big part of it, and you're like, oh, it's because it's a vestigial trait essentially. Or like like cover is still a flat bonus, like +2 or +5. And that's kind of almost seems like a little vestigial trait of bygone eras.
Yeah, stuff that's just carried over.
Yeah, if I had the time, I'd love to like go and actually play back all of the different editions. I've had an idea for a while to do like a time traveler series of like a short 5-episode campaign where we play through a one shot essentially in 5th edition. and then at
Yep.
the end of that, some time anomaly happens, and the same characters and same
Yeah.
story gets
Yeah.
zapped back to the start, and now you roll through it again, but in 4th edition,
Yeah.
and then you do it again in the 3, and then 2, and then 1.
That would be fun, yeah.
And I was like, that'd be a fun system to do, and it'd help me to like learn some of the differences between the different systems and stuff.
Yeah.
But who the hell has time for it? It's just on the list of projects that I want to do one day.
Yeah. 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 Especially if you got to sit there and learn, you know.
My only
67 editions.
my only experience with 1st and 2nd edition is running like a playing in like a hybridized version of that Lord Gazumba plays on his channel.
Right.
He invited me on one time, and he has this. He's been going for 44 years now. He's been going from the beginning, and he just stayed with 1st edition the whole time, with adapting certain elements of 2nd edition into it. And I played that, and it was a lot of fun because he was the one doing all of the Sacco stuff. He was the one doing all of the calculations, and he's so good at it from 44 years of experience.
I went back recently and like I was reading the Thacker rules and just trying to comprehend them. Like just because like I'm a big fan of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, like the PC games, and they run off advanced D&D. But it all happens in the background, so you don't have to think about it. But like I actually wanted to comprehend how it works, and I was like, oh man. Lord
Gazumba, Jay will definitely espouse how easy it is, and it's like it makes so much sense. It's like, when you've got 40 plus years experience doing it, it makes total sense to you. It's totally intuitive at that point.
Yeah,
but so much calculation for someone who's just like, let's just sit down and play it. Like, can you imagine doing what your friend did to get you into the game, but with 1st edition, where he's like, I just kind of feel like improvising a game for you guys. Now, here's how you hit. Here's a table of numbers, and you got to reference this and this.
Yeah, I think that's the burden of being a GM. I think.
Have you ever played any of the other editions other than 4th and 5th?
So I played. Yeah, well, I played Pathfinder first, so essentially 3.5, but never actually run a 3.5 game or anything like that. But no, for like original D&D and AD&D, like I've read some of the books, but never run it or play it.
Right.
Something I'd like to experience. The whole like the aesthetic around original D&D and AD&D really appeals to me. I'm a big core races guy. So I especially love running campaigns where the players incidentally, like, I will never force them to pick core races, but when all the players pick a core, like an original core race, like human, elf, dwarf, we'll stretch it to half orc. I don't mind half orc and half elf. But when players pick a party composed of core races, I'm usually like, thank you guys. That's like,
I've just started a second campaign with the Vive la Dirt League guys. That's an all-women's campaign, and the four players, not only were they not core races, they were not even I don't think they were even Xanathar's races. They were all like much like I don't want to spoil things because it hasn't been announced yet, but there was some out there. One of them even went she was just like, can I play a Redacted? And I was like, that's not one of the races, but if that's what you're going to find fun, sure, I'll make it work. I'll take a Redacted, and I will give it a fly speed and and they were like, okay, cool, thanks. And then the guys were like, that's going to be too hard to film in the green screen, veto. Choose a different race. They're like, fair enough. So she went and chose, she went and chose a different equally hard to film monster in the green screen. She's gonna have horns or something. I don't know. It's they were all like out there classes and races, and I was like, all right, let's see how wacky and wonderful this party composition is.
Right, yeah.
And see if they regret picking it when they have to wear the costume on the green screen.
The prosthetics and
it is sort of a novelty these days with so many races to pick from. It's a novelty when you get a party that's just all human, just like
it is. Yeah,
3 humans and an elf.
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy it when it is though. I'm just like, oh yes, core races. Thank you. We go.
So when you started getting into 5th edition, did you jump in right as 5th edition started and was like
no? Like I said, I bought the starter box when we went on that camping trip, but after that, I didn't touch 5e for years. Until lockdown, actually, until COVID. I dabbled in it a little bit while I was living in Canada. Like I had a few games with like a local group in Banff, like in town, and they were playing 5th edition. So that was actually my first proper experience with it as a player. And I thought, and we used D&D Beyond, which I was aware of its existence. I just never used it, and I was like, wow, this is actually D&D Beyond is actually super intuitive. And I was like, I can actually see this being really handy for running online games because you can just hand over the character creation agency to players who haven't read the
Right.
books and
Yeah.
stuff. They
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
jump on D&D Beyond, and it's really easy. And it was. And obviously, at the time, I had dabbled in the Eberron setting
Yeah.
in 4E previously, but never really got into it. And then, yeah, I started reading Eberron books again. I was like, oh, I actually really want to run something in this. And incidentally, it's become my favorite setting ever since.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you
And
about it.
and then and so yeah, I ended up running games during lockdown in 5E and pretty much started streaming it on the channel. Um, and yeah, and so it became the channel staple just because it's the easiest one to run, really, in the virtual tabletop setting,
Yeah.
and running games on Discord or
Yeah.
whatever with each other.
Yeah. 5e just becomes
Yeah,
easier.
it's definitely easier. Like we ran a very long first edition campaign, Pathfinder first edition campaign through lockdown, and because Hero Lab actually have quite a very good character builder now as well, on their like for Pathfinder first and second edition.
Right.
And so it became easier to run Pathfinder games online once that had kicked in, and
Yeah.
now there's plenty of support for both Pathfinder editions on
good.
Foundry, which is the VTT that I usually
Yeah.
use. So it's become easier since then. So these days it's kind of I pretty much only run 5e if I want to run Eberron.
Right.
If I'm running pretty much anything else, it'll be in another system. So yeah.
So tell me about your interest with Eberron, because like I found a lot of the time when I'm talking to DMs, they have like fascination with like world building and creating their own world and like not running things that are from a set campaign setting or a module or anything. What was it about Eberron that was like, I'm gonna set all my games here, or I'm gonna
I just
you got sucked into the
such
lore
a
of it,
well, I find it very unique. When it comes to fantasy settings, the ones that appeal to me are the ones that have their own, shtick, like their own concepts, their own unique systems. Yeah, they've got a thing, and like a lot of them just don't really appeal to me. Like outside of the Baldur's Gate video games, I really and like including like the Icewind Dale ones and stuff like that. I really don't like Forgotten Realms just really doesn't capture me like other stuff does, like other things can. Like and yeah, just Eberron's like the creator Keith Baker. I think he's he created the game and he still supports it. I think it's its 20th birthday next year, I think, and like he still regularly releases content for it, he on his personal website, and it just goes so deep and it's such a wide just sort of gamut of adventures that you can run in a single setting without having to go out of your way to contrive the concept in for what you want to run. So for example, like it has like its big thing is it's noir adventures, whether it's urban or your the transport system in the game. Obviously they have trains, airships powered by elementals and things like that. So like it's it's a short public transport right away from being in a jungle in the nearby nation or on the western frontier and in another nation.
Everyone's always struck me as like more of a steampunk kind of a feel to it.
It does, yeah. Which it definitely has a steampunk aesthetic to it at times, especially with the trains and things like that. But it goes beyond it, and you can pretty much any adventure, any style of fantasy adventure you want to run, there is somewhere within the Eberron world where you can run it.
Right.
And aside from that, like I really enjoyed like his lore after 20 years of constantly releasing lore for it. It goes so deep and so wide over a span of time as well. Like you can account for Eberron lore from the creation myth of the world all the way through a few 100,000 years all the way to the modern day. And yeah, his concepts in the within the world as well, like the dragon marks. Obviously the what he calls wide magic instead of high magic. So it's kind of like rather than having there's not many powerful spellcasters, but there's a lot of low level spellcasters. So
Right.
pretty much very in the most urbanized parts of the world, even the most menial tasks are done by magic. So in the big cities, you can be out on catching a flying taxi up the road to the nearby district, and there's billboards powered by illusion magic. Before you leave the house, you touch an orb that just cleans you. You don't have to take a shower.
Yeah. I noticed when Eberron. I noticed, like, I haven't played Eberron before. I've not actually played it. Have I? One time, I think, in GM Workshop one. But I've never. I don't know too much about it, other than like when it was released, and I started seeing all of these extra items and things in the D&D Beyond magic items, things like the Orb of Cleansing and stuff. And I was like, some of these are useful and feel very high tech kind of magic, where magic has replaced technology kind of thing.
Exactly.
I utilize those things whenever somebody goes into a very wealthy part of town, because I'm in my games, in my setting, I'm like, it would make sense that the wealthiest people would have the access to the most mundane magic, like the most everyday quality of life magics, and so they'll have like clothes of mending, and they'll have like the orbs of cleansing, and they'll have all these sorts of technology magics.
Which is exactly how it happens. And then and the culture in it is just done so interestingly. It's kind of like rather than a character or NPC's entire personality, background and heritage be based on their genetics by their race. It's more they're based. They grow and they're as a result of their experience of where they're located geographically, rather than what their background is. So it's kind of like you can have a dwarf that grows up in the big city of Shan, and then a dwarf from where the dwarves come from in the northeast, called a place called the Maror Holds, likely won't understand each other. They won't speak the same language. They won't write the same language.
Dwarves, so you speak Dwarvish, you have Stonecunning, you have this, you have a brewer's kit.
Exactly. Yeah, so like your characters are a product of their environments in the game, rather than being shoehorned into a corner based on their race or
And I think D&D is going that way with just its sort of default now that since what was it, Tasha's, I think it was, that they started to make that kind of that change where they removed the +2, +1 to specific stats and just give you an ability to choose. They've removed languages, just like if you're a dwarvish, you speak dwarf. Sorry, they reverse it. And so they now give you like, pick a language that makes sense for your character to speak, and things like that. I think they could go further with it. Like in my expectations, I think it should be two different things. When you're picking a race, essentially, you should be picking a race that gives you biological stats, like do you have dark vision or not, and then a background of like, were you raised in this culture or that culture. Like you can then play a dwarf that was raised by elves, and so you have your dark vision and your whatever, your tremor sense or something from being able to touch stonework. But you also were raised by elves, so you get the elven weapons proficiencies, and you can speak Elvish and things like that. I think they should really just split like where you were raised and what your biology is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good idea. Obviously, it's setting dependent as well. So like if if you're playing in Forgotten Realms, they'd have specific cultural backgrounds for different regions of the Forgotten Realms, or I'm sure that they could have generic ones as well, just for people who are playing other settings. But yeah, that's
So you got into Eberron and was like, this feels like me. This feels like my thing. And
I just vibed with it, really.
Within Eberron, do you run modules as well, like, or do you homebrew?
I homebrew all my adventures in Eberron. Yeah.
And what was the choice there? Have you looked at Eberron modules?
Well, there's very few modules.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? When D&D 5e has just been like, Forgotten Realms is the default, and everybody else is like, we exist.
There's very few 5e modules to run for it. There's plenty of content. It got quite a lot of love in 3.5. There's actually a lot of books for it, and plenty of pre-written adventures. But obviously everything has to be converted over to 5e, which is can, depending on what you do, the way you handle it can be a big task, or it can be quite simple if you're fairly loose about it. But I just enjoy running my own adventures in the setting, especially with the way that the setting allows you to run any kind of adventure. Like, for example, the first big one I ran during lockdown was a big, noir conspiracy adventure. Like the party was working against like this hidden power that was interfering with governments and manipulating people behind the scenes in this big conspiracy. But then the next one I ran after that was like a Guy Ritchie style British gangster adventure, like just set entirely in the city, like set around a casino, and they meanwhile, like I ran a one shot with Dread, Dag, and AJ and John Phoenix Iwaki, where they were on an expedition, like in basically the Arctic region of the world. That will eventually, like the fallout of their one shot, I'm planning to turn into a full campaign with some of my own players one day. But
I like that.
yeah, just
I like
the flexibility of what you can do
can affect another.
Yeah.
Just a home game just the other day where one of the players used to play with a different group with me, but in the same world as a different character, and that group just kind of fell apart for logistics reasons. But then he started playing again with this other character with a different group of players. But because he's in the same world, his new character and some of the other party kind of went through this portal and left one of the party behind, and we had this split party between like planes of existence, not just like the rogue's gone upstairs and the rest of them haven't kind of split party, but like a proper fuck, what am I gonna do with the rest of the campaign kind of split party. And so I said, tell you what, prepare so and so, your previous character, like get him up to this level and like come up with what he's been doing in the meantime, and we'll get the other players in. Like I'll see if I can arrange a one-off session with the other parties. And so we managed to tie both of those campaigns together in like he met I forced him to meet his own character, and he had like this back and forth like playing both characters and trying to remember the accents and stuff.
That's awesome.
and then these other two players that used to play with me years ago turned up and had this this closure moment, because I said that campaign just kind of fell apart because of logistics. We never really got rounding out the story, so they got that nice moment of like closing out their story and tying it up and still feeling like heroes because they managed to save this other guy, this new guy that Mike's playing. So yeah, it's nice when those things can come together, and like the stories that you're telling with this group can affect the rest of the world. And
absolutely. I try to work those sort of things into adventures whenever I can. Particularly like I keep the campaigns I run in Eberron are usually all in the same world of my campaigns where they're happening. So often they will
sort of timeline as well. So
So like there will be they often will have like, whether it's the same players like having their old characters resonate through whatever they did during the campaigns, or players from my other campaigns having this butterfly effect of things going on. Like I do, it's a fun thing to do.
What about Humblewood and your experience with that? I saw those on your YouTube last night, and as I was some of your videos.
I love Humblewood. Probably that's in my, I would say that's top 3 in my like favorite settings. Humblewood. I played in Josh the Pirate ran a charity stream the other week, a 24-hour stream, and I played in his Humblewood one shot for that, and that was my first time being a player rather than DM in Humblewood, and that was a lot of fun. I love Humblewood. I mean, it's such a I grew up watching. There was a cartoon. I don't know if they ran it in New Zealand, but in Australia, called The Animals of Farthing Wood.
I've heard of it.
It was a traumatic cartoon actually for a kid to watch. So there's
that's what I'd heard about it. That it's like quite adult in its themes sometimes.
It's absolutely brutal.
You, like animals dying and stuff, and like getting with death and stuff.
But I think ever since then, I always dig things where there's, in Animals of Farthingwood, they were actual just animals looking for a new home. But ever since then, like things like there's a series called Redwall, which is very similar to Humblewood. It's like armored up anthropomorphic
Right.
animals. There's a comic called Mouse Guard that I used to read, which I really enjoyed. So when Humblewood came out, I was like, oh, this is absolutely for me. So that was actually the Humblewood was the pre-written adventure that comes with the first Humblewood book was the first thing I ran on the Twitch channel.
Right.
And I think at the time, I think my friends hadn't got cameras yet, so I think it's just me on camera, and you can just hear my friends' voices.
That's one of the ones I was watching.
Yeah,
Last
and yeah, I think,
listening to all these,
some of the moments in that
animals
was
sitting together.
yeah, it's just, so we're just like it's same vibe how it can be. It's so cute, but at the same time, it's very adult in its themes.
You've definitely triggered some of the people in chat by mentioning animals.
Yeah, sorry guys. Remember the pheasant episode?
Logan just said Mr. Pheasant at the
Yeah,
same
Mr.
time
Pheasant. Oh man,
And,
yeah, it's hard to think about.
gonna have to look this up for my upcoming Halloween horror special.
Oh man, yeah. Was it the pheasant episode was particularly traumatic, and then was it? I think it's either episode 1 or 2 where the demise of Mr. and Mrs. Hedgehog. That was horrible. Think about that.
Just this weird animal snuff film that they just show to kids.
I think that's like a core memory for me as a kid too. I vividly remember the first or second episode, Mr. and Mrs. Hedgehog like meeting their end, and I was like, I think that concept when you're a child and you first like wrap your head around the concept of death, and you're just like, I'm pretty sure that is
It's
that
important
moment
to tell
for me.
these kids
So, yeah.
this. Yeah, it's important to tell them about death. Is it important to show them that?
Yeah, love Humblewood. And they've got a new book that's just come out as well, which I haven't actually cracked yet. So I'm looking forward to that, and
Nice.
definitely love to run some more Humblewood adventures. Yeah,
Just to pivot, then you said earlier you make music. How did that come about? When did you start getting into music?
a long time ago, probably roughly around the same time I was actually introduced to D&D. I was studying music at the time. So like I'm classically trained, although I don't practice anymore. So like I started as a guitarist.
Right.
These days I still have all my guitars, but I just rarely have time to play anymore. So like and I really enjoy writing music still. I write music all the time. The digital age allows me to do that without picking up an instrument. So which is really good. But yeah, I studied class. I got did like an advanced diploma of music and learnt a lot about classical and jazz. And
was that sort of while you were studying? Was it just you were following your passion, or was it like you?
Yeah, well,
music
it was kind of. I'd been a chef for years, and I really wanted to get out of hospitality, and studying full time was a good excuse to not go to work. So I started doing that, and at the time I joined a band. I was in a very fun symphonic metal band for almost a decade. Who are still going. I left the band when I moved to Canada just because obviously being overseas wasn't going to work out. So the band is still. The band is still going. For anyone who ever sees Sarah Lise playing if you're in Australia, or if they ever make it overseas, go and see them. Especially, no, not yet. Yeah. They're on YouTube, but but even though they've been going for over a decade, the production cycle on the music you can listen to online is very limited. They have a lot of music, but basically just a live band. But we're entirely. I still speak as though I'm in the band, but like we're entirely like we're a fantasy metal band, so like we wear full costume on stage.
Oh wow, that's fun.
All of our songs are about riding dragons into space and suffocating because there's no oxygen or things along those lines. But it's just a very epic feeling style of music. Like we have a full orchestra in the background, and so I did that for I was in that band for 10 years, and that was some of the most fun times of my life while we were on tour, like playing those.
Sarah
Lise, still going. Yeah, they're still going. They actually just saw that they played in Melbourne recently, so I got to go see them, which was fun.
Nice.
So yeah, that was my music experience. So I did that I was in the band for 10 years, left, and then so I started writing my own music while I was living overseas, and I still do. So at the moment, my main thing is writing music specifically for D&D. So I write,
Right.
orchestral soundtrack and ambiences and
Yeah.
I release those on Patreon when I have time to actually finish a piece. And I do some lo-fi hip hop stuff, real chill vibe
Yeah.
kind of things, chill vibes to study to or whatever, that sort of stuff. And I
right.
release those on Spotify every now and then. Yeah, it's just a creative pursuit I really enjoy doing.
It's one of the sort of awkward things for me that like I can recognize how important music is. Like I wouldn't watch a movie without a soundtrack. Like, and you watch like different edits. Like I love watching trailers and stuff where it's like if When Harry Met Sally was a thriller, and they they recut the trailer and stuff, and they
or
put
is it Darth Vader marching to like Wham or something like that?
All the difference. Yeah,
yeah.
and like you can see music is incredibly important. It's super useful. I just know so little about anything music that I'd be like somebody like whenever I'm playing live with paid game or something and I start a combat, I'm like, right, we're going into initiative. Does somebody want to find some battle music? Like I just put it on the players and be like, you can score this whole thing because I don't know the first thing about it. I wouldn't know what to look for if it was sad music or if I wanted upbeat music or if I wanted tavern music. I'd just be like, you do it. Somebody else do it.
Yeah. Something that has been like I would say an obstacle maybe is the word to use since playing and running D&D games on Twitch is you can no longer use material that would get you copyright flagged. So and there's plenty of royalty free and very good royalty free composers out there that will provide good music that you can use on stream, myself included. My stuff doesn't get you flagged for copyright strikes, but ever since then it's like I do miss when we're playing games on stream. There's like, oh man, I would really love to play the theme from like Attack on Titan right now.
The soundtrack from this game or
So I've gone back to running games, just not on stream lately, just for my friends. That's been one of the funner things I think is like music that everyone recognizes happening at the right moment, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I know that it can have like some people can get really like hyper obsessed with like, oh, I'm gonna make the perfect soundtrack for this upcoming session I'm gonna run, and it's gonna be this, and then at the start of the battle it's gonna blend into this soundtrack, and at the climax of the battle I'm gonna play this bit. Like just this few bars from this soundtrack is perfect. And they spend so much time. Most of their prep is just like preparing the perfect soundtrack for the game.
Yeah, and then in the moment of being the DM, you forget about it. You're too busy crunching numbers.
You're like, all right, how do you kill the dragon? Oh fuck! I had a whole soundtrack I was meant to be playing for this.
I had a thing.
God damn it! Can we start again? Okay, roll initiative. So you were a chef before that, even. So we'll go in full autobiography. How did being a chef happen? And you gave it up
that just happened.
Enjoying it anymore?
That just happened straight out of school. That was a long time ago. It's just kind of like I started hospitality working while I was at school, and then I finished school, and at the time just didn't know what I wanted to do with myself, so just fell into hospitality full time, and ended up doing it for quite a few years before I was. I think in the end of it, the problem is I didn't work in. Like the work environments I was in at the time just weren't very good, so I had just ran out of passion for the job. Incidentally, like actually, while I was living in Canada, I worked in a restaurant for a bit of an authentic Mexican restaurant, and it was really good. It's one of the best jobs I've ever had. Like I really loved it. And small side note, if anyone's looking for a good series to watch, there's a series on Disney Plus called The Bear. It's about this guy trying to run his brother's restaurant after he inherits it, and it's very for a hospitality worker, it punches you right in the guts, and it's very good. Right. So watch it. But that's been a resonance lately of the feel. If you want to know what it feels like to work in hospitality, I think that show captures it very, 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 very accurately. That's a good show.
Good to know. Yeah, apparently Ben was raving about it on stream the other day. Ben's pretty huge on. I don't think he's ever been a chef, but he's huge on cooking and food.
Yeah. Okay.
So you got into that. You lost the passion for it. Started doing music.
Yeah.
Decided.
And then
start to move? You said you travelled a lot. You lived in Canada a bit.
Yeah.
Have you
So
done
I
anything
went
elsewhere too?
from I got out of hospitality. I did my music diploma, and then I went to the finance sector then. So I had worked in the finance sector for quite a few years, and then I ended up just ditching that and just moving overseas, and then that was recent times. So like I lived in Canada. COVID happened, came home, and then once lockdowns and things had finished, I went back to being a ski bum. So me and my partner, like we basically just traveled around to different ski spots and lived there and worked as instructors or lift operators. And
Why was Canada the choice when you were deciding to move elsewhere?
I think one of my friends just gave me a poke to do it. Like it was my sister actually. She was like, just quit your job, move overseas. And I was like, okay. I was actually going to move to New Zealand.
Good choice. Good choice for everybody.
That's where I was intent on going. I was going to move to Queenstown or Wanaka, and then one of my friends who had just come back from Canada, she was like, "Oh, you should go to Canada." I was like, "Okay, I'll do that instead." So it was,
You're at that point of your life where you're just like a ball on top of a hill, and it's just needs the right prod, and suddenly, ooh, Canada.
Yeah. So it just ended up being Canada. So
And you were
it was a
just
good
like,
decision.
and you already liked to ski, snowboard at that point?
Yeah,
Or
I
you
was
were
already. I'd been
Yeah.
snowboarding since I was about 17, 18. So it was.
Right.
It's my other big passion. Probably
Right.
got D&D and I got snowboarding. My two.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Really? Is that much?
my two passions.
I do love snowboarding. I don't get to do it very often, like maybe once every couple of years at most or something. But I don't remember the last time I actually got to do it. But that's one of the reasons I'm excited to potentially go on a trip in March, I think, next year.
Oh, awesome.
It's on the cards, not locked in,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping to get to Banff for a bit of a snowboarding weekend.
Oh, in Banff, yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'm jealous.
There's some places in New Zealand that are real good for skiing and snowboarding as well. That's down south, especially where all of the mountain ranges are.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I've been at Queenstown is one of my favorite. I think I've probably been to Queenstown maybe 4 times. I think it's one of my favorite places to go.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
just
It's one of the nicest places in New Zealand, in my opinion. Very touristy. Though.
That's amazing. Oh yeah, absolutely.
During tourist season, it could get a bit like this isn't really New Zealand anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Where else have you been? You said you travelled a lot.
I've been to all the big snowboarding spots. Although I haven't been to Europe yet, so that's on the cards.
Trip all around the world.
Yeah.
Never been to Europe yet.
No, still I've never set foot in Europe. So maybe next year. Been to Japan quite a few times. I was probably the best snowboarding in the world in Japan, to be honest.
I've heard. Yeah. I've never been to Japan yet. Maybe I should. Maybe that's another reason to get out there. I've got a friend who lives there, and I wanted to visit at some point. And I've always just wanted to visit just for the culture and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, now that I know that there's super good snowboarding too, maybe I can tie it all in and make myself.
Yeah. You should.
All that's left is needing some sort of convention. If there's some sort of convention, some sort of nerd convention I can go to.
They've definitely got conventions. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's basically my travel plans for the rest of the foreseeable future. Is like go to a convention, write some of the trip off as a business expense, do some in-person D&D game while I'm there to sort of pay for the trip.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
I love to travel, man. Traveling's one of my favorite things to do. I've done a lot of traveling, and it's just the problem is just it's expensive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
To be able to afford it.
When did you? At what point did you migrate from the UK?
I moved to New Zealand when I was 18, and I'm turning 35 next year, so it's coming up on 17 years.
Yeah. Okay. Was that a solo adventure or a family?
It was semi-solo. My parents moved out here before that, when I was coming up to 18, like 6 months before. My dad had got a job offer here and had always wanted to live here, so they moved out. And then I finished college back in the UK, and when I graduated, I moved out here to follow them. Because if I'd arrived by a certain date, I would get permanent residency immediately under my dad's visa.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll go out there and get the permanent residency just to like open up boxes and open up avenues and stuff, and give myself the choice. And then maybe I'll come back to the UK, but I'll at least have that New Zealand as an option.
Yeah. Okay.
And as soon as I moved here, I just fell in love with the place and was like, oh, this is where I belong. This is where I need to be. This is home. And I've never
nice.
felt since moving, not even once I've ever felt homesick for the UK.
Yeah.
I miss my brothers who were older at the time, and so they were like they had long-term jobs and girlfriends and stuff, and so they stayed in the UK. And so for the last 17 years, I've just not seen my brothers essentially. I saw them, a couple of times here and there, but not holidays.
No, I mean,
not
it's
like
something.
Or seeing them just like on a lazy Tuesday or whatever.
Yeah, I think it comes with the territory of doing that sort of thing, like migrating or moving far away. I think the same thing. I've actually just saw my sister for the first time since 2017. She lives on the other side of Australia. She lives where in Perth.
All right.
So like I just saw her for the first time in 2017 and met she's got 2 kids, met them for the first time, one's 4.
Right,
And
yeah. I was just talking to my mum this morning because she's talking about my nephew for some talent show. We definitely know that he's somewhere on the spectrum because he's incredibly brilliant but not super good with socials, but he's getting better. And so for the talent show he was like, I'm gonna learn all of the city capitals of the countries of Africa for this talent show, and so
just recite them.
He just taught himself 53 capitals of the African countries and he's just going to recite them at the thing. And I was like, amazing awesome. Intellectual gift or talent, skill, whatever you want to call it, but also there comes in that ties in with the inability to understand that's not going to be interesting to sit through. So I was like,
I would find it fascinating. That's very.
I'd be like, this is incredible for the first 20, and then I'd be like, I've never heard of that country, and he could be making these words up for all I know. I was like, so what? I was telling my mum, you should advise him that instead of just rattling them off, he should allow the judges to choose a country. Just name an African country, I'll tell you the capital, because then it's doubly impressive, because then the judges, not only do they get the chance to be like, wow, this is impressive, we've seen enough, but the judges also go, oh shit, I don't know any African countries. And so it's even more, it reminds them how even more impressive it is that not only does he know the countries, but he knows the capitals as well, because I'm an adult and I don't even know the countries. So like I was like, make it more entertaining that way to like get the judges involved in the talent. But yeah, he's coming up to, I think he's 8 or 9 years old, and I've seen him once when he was 6 months old.
Yeah, okay,
he was like a little baby, and
wow.
I've never met him in person. And since then, he's got 2. He's got a little brother and a little sister that I've never met. So like I'm going back for September next year. I'll be in the UK.
Okay, cool.
And I'm going to be there for one of my brother's weddings and their birthdays and stuff. So I was like, I'll make a big trip of the whole thing and meet them all, and it's gonna be the first time in the UK in a long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's probably the UK is one of the, when I do go to Europe, is the UK is high on the list. I'm actually British in heritage myself. My dad emigrated here when he was, I think, 10.
Right.
So British, but it'd be good to go see where my family's from and stuff.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk present day Pesh, present day tales of Pesh. What is going on for you at the moment? Like, what are you doing with things? I know you said your finance sector, and that's taking up most of your job, but like, do you do any amount of music still, or?
No, I do. Yeah. So like, it's been on the content creation front, it's been a very slow year. Just because my day job pretty much Mondays to Fridays I can be in the office till up to 6 o'clock some days, and then usually when I get home I don't feel like sitting in front of the computer again and like writing a script or like
running a D&D game, which is
So like we the Twitch has been dialed back. We stream once a week on Thursdays, very inconsistently. As a result, the Twitch audience has sort of tapered off a lot, which is, it comes with that. If you to be a successful streamer, you have to stream I'm sure full well it needs to be
this
at
is
least
something else I was talking with Ben about yesterday, about how like you'll see people streaming every single day, and it's because if you take a few days off, or if you take a couple of weeks off for this or illness or whatever, you'll see your subscriptions drop. Like
the audience
Twitch is a platform that is very much like you're only earning while you're doing.
Exactly. So I've sort of, even the last few years, I've been slowly dialing it back since lockdowns and things have been over anyway. YouTube is something that I've been enjoying a lot more. So I've only done one YouTube video this year. I'm working on a new one at the moment, and I will get it out very soon.
Can we
But
get the topic, or is it?
it's another
connected?
my YouTube channel.
Oh,
Since
History of Eberron?
yeah, it's another Eberron one. So yeah, my YouTube channel is just Eberron documentaries now. So yeah, the next one is
They're really well produced, by the way. Like I was watching
thanks,
some last
thank
night,
you.
I was like, there's a lot of thought gone into them. The script is well written and well performed, I suppose. And
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of the
yeah.
editing like that goes over the top of them.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's something that I take a lot of pride in them, and especially like the amount of time that they take to do as well. So it's yeah, the next one.
Do you have a lot of editing background? Like, or is it just through making stuff for YouTube that you've taught yourself?
I did it. Actually, I was fascinated with it at school. I studied multimedia, so like I started editing film from a young age. It's not something I've ever done professionally outside of my content creation stuff, but it's something I've always enjoyed.
Right.
We we actually one of my friends was moving house recently, and he unearthed like this. I used to make videos at school all the time, like with the handy cam. We used to, whenever we had a school assignment, we would make a video for it, or we just used to make like videos for fun, like our own cinematic movies. And one of my friends unearthed one, like this DVD in the cabinet recently, and got it out, and was like, oh no. It's like, our teenage selves in this movie about being invaded by aliens. So like
I heard something good though that was like, if you don't look back on stuff you did in earlier years and cringe, then you haven't grown since then.
Spot on. Yeah.
You gotta be able to cringe at your early stuff. Everybody cringes at things they made when they were teen. Like home movies are some of the most. It's the closest we get to actual like psychic damage in real life.
That's
like,
it. Yeah,
it's like watching a home movie of yourself as a teenager that's doing something they think is really funny,
or even just being in bed late at night and you're just like,
you're like, oh, did I say that?
You think about that thing that time. It's like,
you think about something. You think about someone that you like. I haven't seen them in like 20 years, but they still haunt me because of that one interaction we had at high school or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I wonder what that girl's doing now, and whether she ever thinks about that time that this awkward lanky kid tried to ask her out and did something really cringy to try and be romantic.
Yeah, psychic damage.
Psychic damage.
So luckily, I learned how to edit at a fairly young age during my teenage years. So, and that ended up coming in handy now, which is nice. Editing tools are a lot more powerful these days and free to use, which is really cool.
One of the best things about it is that like a dummy can pick it up and just be like, look, this is a software that you could get something really good from. Or if you're a dummy, you can just be like, I can get something passable from it. I'm currently making a series of YouTube shots for the difference between Baldur's Gate 3 and D&D, just because I know that there's going to be a lot of audience coming into D&D now from Baldur's Gate, and they're going to play the video game, being video gamers. They're going to come to it through that and then go, this looks fun. Maybe I should try actually playing the tabletop version. And then a lot of times that I've noticed that in my experience as a professional DM, like people who come to D&D as more video gamers have a lot of issues with a lot of issues that they have to iron out of like not having to loot every single thing and not having to like pick up that goblin sword because it might be worth something later. And so there's those sorts of things that I'm making a series of YouTube shots to be like, just don't forget that like, hey, neither's bad, but they are different media, and like in the tabletop game you're likely to encounter this rather than this, and blah blah blah. But in the process of making those, I need to like green screen myself, and I don't know the first thing about lighting and green screen and stuff, but there's just like a magic key, I think it's called, that you just click that and drag it onto the thing, and then you just click at the parts that you want to get out. Choose the color on the screen, and it's just like beep, magics it away. Like technology, indistinguishable from magic.
So I remember trying to do green screen like 20 years ago, like when I was a teenager, and like it was possible at the time, but extremely complicated. And it's like these days it's like one touch and it's done, and it's very nice.
It makes it easier for people to get out there, which is great. I think any lack of barriers between creativity is fantastic. Like if somebody's really good at this particular thing, but the barriers are in the way for them to get that content out, to get that what they're good at out there, it's a problem for the world, because you're not going to see that. You're not going to see their really cool thing. They're not going to be putting themselves out into like the zeitgeist and stuff. Whereas if you can with technology remove some of these barriers to allow the person who's good at what they do to get their stuff in front of people.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially when these tools are, you don't have to pay yeah, if you the editing tools are simple enough, you can make something passable. You don't have to pay someone hundreds of dollars to edit a 5 or 10 minute video for you, which is awesome. It's,
yeah. Having said that, I think like there is like a limit of it going too far, like with AI training to be just better and better and better at everything essentially, and everybody just being like, I can make my own art with this AI, and I can make my own music with this AI, and I can whatever. We got approached the other day. Viva got approached by somebody who was like, hey, we're creating an AI that can tell stories, or it can like basically be a dungeon master AI, and we'd love for you to try it out and blah blah blah. And Ben was like, sent it through to me and was like, is this any interest of you? And I was like, no, I've got no interest in helping to train an AI to do my job. Like I don't want to be involved in the process of, like, it's inevitable. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not stupid enough to think that it's not going to happen one day. But I don't want to be. It doesn't mean I have to help it out. It doesn't mean I have to help increase and train this fucking AI to take my job from me by being a better storyteller than I am. Leave AI to be doing the jobs that nobody likes, and leave creativity for humans.
The Skynet play.
Yeah, the Skynet, the DM. So you were talking about the upcoming video, the Eberron video.
Oh yeah. So yeah, just because it's been a few months since I put one out. I'm doing another drag. I call the series Dragon Marked, where it's just like the video is just specifically about one of the dragon marked houses of Eberron. So this one's on House Thrashk, which is they have the mark of finding. So their thing is incidentally, this is why I said prospectors at the start, because I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately. So that's what I'm writing the script about. So they have the mark of finding, and they make very good hunters, trackers, prospectors. They can use their marks and their intuitions to find things, basically.
All of the locate spells, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, locate objects. Locate objects. Things like that. So that's their shtick. So they're like a.
And in Eberron, with me not knowing too much about it, because I see all of that in the like character creation, and whenever you're picking a class, it's like, do you want to be a halfling or do you want to be a mark of finding halfling?
Yes.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is when it's a house of whatever, is it like a family, like a blood family, or is it like
it's
a group of people, like an entire city?
It's complicated, so it can be specific bloodlines. More generally, for most of the houses, it's a that even though it is passed on bloodlines, it is the house itself refers to many families coming together to form this house, and they're generally in modern day Eberron. They're corporations more than anything. So even though the passing of the mark, the actual magic that gives them that gives specific what's referred to as heirs, as the powers, is generally genetically passed. It can just manifest on someone who's never had one before and unrelated to them blood-wise. Yeah. So like they can manifest spontaneously, but yeah, generally they're passed genetically. But when in the modern day Eberron setting, like in the present day, they're generally thought of businesses or corporations rather than blood families. So and so the mark of finding, even though it has its roots, House of the Rash have their roots in like the Shadow Marches, which is like the dank, swampy corner of the main continent on Eberron, and they started as like it's the only mark actually that appears on more than one race. So the marks are usually constrained to certain races. Mark of Finding is the only mark that appears on both humans and half-orcs, and they had their roots as, they grew up in the wilds of this swampland, which was once like the battleground between the Joriat, which is basically where the mind flayers and all the aberrations of Eberron all come from this specific plane of existence called Joriat, and they staged a giant invasion on the world of Eberron, and there was basically they fought the dominant civilization at the time on the continent was this is about, I think, about 20,000 years before present day Eberron, so there was no humans there yet at the time. It was just this empire of goblinoids, so goblins, bugbears, and hobgoblins, and they were at the time super technologically and magically advanced, and they staged this giant. They were the only thing standing between the invasion of the aberrations being led by the Dalkier, and there's big battle. The goblinoids managed to beat them back, but as a result, basically the mind flayers all played this dirty trick and basically poisoned the minds of the entire empire, and they like sort of fell back into decadence, and their empire just sort of degenerated. And then left behind was this charred battlefield that became a swamp. And so the House Thrash has their roots there. Some humans come from another continent entirely, and everyone, they migrated. First human migrants came to the swampland and integrated with the local orcs. And then they formed these families of hunters and gatherers, and then eventually the marks started appearing on them, and then over time they ended up capitalizing on it in modern day Eberron, because the dragon shards are basically what make Eberron's wheels turn. It's like a magical fuel for all the devices and all battery. Magic battery basically. So they're super sought after and super prized, and having the ability to actually just find them using magical powers is very valuable. So House of the Rash have capitalized on it and become this industrial powerhouse of prospecting and mining, and keeping the dragon shard trade going.
It seems like kind of a cool way to differentiate the races as well, because it's in a place where it's like you said, Eberron is like, it's not so much about what race you are, it's about where you grew up that it gives you your abilities. But to differentiate the race, to give that thing as the way of differentiating it, to be like, humans tend to be better at finding things because they're more likely to have this mark of finding, and dwarves have this thing, and hobbits have this thing. Like,
it happens like that.
They're like, that's one way to explain, I suppose, the culture of like dwarves. Dwarven culture is influenced by the fact that a lot of dwarves have this mark of whatever, and so people know them. I suppose I'm guessing people know humans, or there's like there would be this stereotype that humans are better at finding things because some humans have this mark of finding.
No, it can be. The houses tend to be, even though the marks are very constrained to certain races, although some races can manifest multiple different marks. I think humans have the most. I think like humans can have like the mark of finding, the mark of making, the mark.
That would lend people to being like humans are the most versatile because.
They are considered. They sort of have this. Humans have this shtick that like they have had like the most amount of blessing from these marks appearing, although the races that hold the marks don't really quite understand where they come from. The dragons of the setting are like the Illuminati sort of. The dragons live on the dragons. They live on their own continent. The dragons all live on their own continent and study the other races and watch these marks manifest and try to find meaning in the magic and they sort of what's called what was it called, the draconic prophecy. So they read like they consider these marks like a physical manifestation of the prophecy. So it's kind of like the weaving of the flow of the universe in this tapestry of chance and happenstance and things happening, and they try to predict it and they try to interfere with it, and like the dragons will insert themselves into governments and things like that and try to move things around. It's a very cool concept. But in terms of the houses will they grow around these marks and they form a specific purpose. Like for example, the mark of finding, obviously their purpose, they find purpose in prospecting and capitalizing on it. But then around it, they will attract other guilds that fall into the same sort of lines, or maybe there'll be something locally they can take advantage of. So House Thrash actually have a big monopoly in non-human beast race mercenaries, so because they come from this swampland and they have a lot of friendly ties with orcs and trolls and ogres and things like that. So they formed like mercenary houses as well, and they'll contract out their big beast races to all over the world as muscle, for whatever it's needed for.
Is there like a set number of marks and there can never be more, or do more marks still?
At the moment in the lore, there is a set amount of marks. There is one mark that was the mark of death, which was abolished. Basically, like the elves that held the mark of death were very naughty, and they started doing experimentations to crossbreed elves with dragons. And then the entire dragon cabal found out The elvish government found out, and then the elves and the dragons came together and just purged everyone who was in the Mark of Death family. And this went, you've been very naughty. So that particular mark doesn't exist anymore in the lore. It can obviously, it's your Eberron, so the Mark of Death can suddenly have a resurgence, and that'd be a really cool storyline.
Somebody's born with it. And what does it mean to have a baby have this mark or whatever, and then be like,
exactly.
do I have to do something with it?
So there's the remaining marks, which are flourishing as corporations. They rule Eberron more than the actual kings and lords and stuff do, because they've got their fingers in everything. And then there's what's called the aberrant dragon marks. So an aberrant dragon mark can manifest on anyone. Okay. And if you do, it's usually pretty bad for you, because it usually, the aberrant dragon marks, their thing is that they cause the bearer to manifest very chaotic and dangerous powers. It's wild magic, basically.
Right, gotcha, yeah.
And although once they sort of did have their own house, anyone who manifested an aberrant dragon mark could come and join this house called Tarkanen. But eventually, there was a lot of incidents, and eventually it ended up the aberrant dragon marks were purged as well, which culminated in this awesome huge battle where the House Tarkanen faced off against all the paramilitary forces of all the other houses came together to purge the aberrant dragon marks, and there's this big battle in the city of Shan. And it sort of culminated in the leader of the house just unleashing this cataclysmic magic and destroying the city as he went down. And then, so since then, there's no aberrant dragon mark house, and if you manifest one, you keep it secret, because otherwise they'll come after you. And which is a very, very cool story, because it's something that any player can take as a feat as well. Obviously, you consult the DM, but it's I want to take the aberrant dragon mark feat, and it's we need to talk about that, because you can't just walk around with it. So yeah, that also a very cool concept.
It sounds like a real, that is one of the things I do like about a setting. Eberron sounds like it's got its thing, that it's this is it's not just a generic kind of, you can tell any story here. It's you can tell any story here, but this is what we do well. These are the stories that we do well, and there's there's a story that is tied to the setting rather than it just being a setting where you can tell stories.
Yeah. The creator of Eberron, Keith Baker, he's very, whenever he refers, it's very sort of cute whenever he refers to Eberron in his stories, or in his on his blog where he releases new lore or something. He's always very adamant of referring to things as his Eberron. So he always says, in my Eberron, this is what happens. He's like, but in your Eberron, you can do whatever you want. Make it yours. So
that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So did you just find Eberron, delve deep into it, and then decide, I know a lot about Eberron, maybe I should make videos to help other people get into Eberron, or chicken and egg kind of thing? Do you know all of the stuff that you've just rattled off because you've been making videos about them for so long?
I had been deep into it already, and then I don't know what sparked it when I made the first one, actually, but I think that was pretty much the purpose. I was like, for someone who's brought new players into Eberron, there's a lot of concepts to explain, and there's a lot in it. And like I said, there's 200,000 years of established lore. So I was like, oh, maybe I can make an all-encompassing video for. It was particularly for Twitch, actually, when I was bringing in other creators in for one shots or whatever. I would say, hey guys, I know if you've got 20 minutes to spare time, here's the entire history, the creation myth of Eberron in one video. So you can watch that, and you'll at least know all the concepts of Eberron.
It'll answer some of the otherwise slowing down questions of the session.
Exactly.
What's a dragon shard? I've made videos on it.
Yeah, so it started with that one video, which I just made as a solution to introduce people to the wide setting as a whole. So it has the creation myth, it has all the major concepts like dragon marks and just the general geography. And then it was so well received on YouTube. I was like, oh, maybe there's a market for this. So I started making more, and it has been really well received, which has been fun. So it's nice. It's nice to see that there's always comments from people saying, oh, this was really good. I could show this to my players. And, or, one person who's super into one of the Dragon Mark houses, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. There's all this extra, because I go pretty deep on it, and I learn a lot of stuff at the same time while I'm making them, because I delve back into I go back into the 3.5 books, and there's a lot of lore there. And obviously Baker has still been releasing stuff on his blog, so I look at all his articles and.
And you said that Eberron was coming up to 20 years old, so it would have been released.
20th birthday next year.
It would have been released during third edition.
Yeah,
There wasn't like first and second edition Eberron.
No. So, fun fact: he actually won a competition that Wizards of the Coast put on for a new world. That was my next question. It's like how does a setting become like an official D&D setting? Yeah, so it was his baby, his brainchild, and then Wizards of the Coast put this competition on. They're like, submit your world, and it could become the next world for D&D, and he won it. So that's how it happened, which is really cool.
Makes sense that he had this like interesting and like specific law of how the world was created and stuff that sets it apart from being it, because you don't imagine somebody winning a competition like that without something like a gimmick. Like when people ask me about my world, I'm like, I mean, it's just kind of a world that just like people can, like, stories can tell. My enjoyment comes from telling the stories in the world, like the world itself and the creation of the lore and stuff. That can be interesting to people, but it's not like a magic dragon exploded one day and all of his bits became shards that are now.
Yeah,
it's like there's not a thing, not a gimmick to my world creation.
Yeah.
One day maybe.
And it's it's just like so deep, so well thought out, and he gives like I like the fact that the creation myth that you mentioned, that the world was made of 3 dragons that fought each other, and then like one wrapped one absorbed the other and wrapped around it and became the world. But within the setting of the world, it's still open to interpretation. Like different places, people in different geographies and different cultures have different interpretations of the creation myth of the world. Being an atheist within Eberron is perfectly acceptable, because there's no actual proof that the deities that everyone worships actually exist.
I've always been interested in exploring like an atheist character in D&D where the pantheon of gods is like tangible. But somebody, because an atheist in D&D would kind of be like a flat earther in the real world, where it's like, despite the mountain of evidence, they can always turn it and be like, well, you try and explain it away. The atheist in D&D would be someone who's like, well, I mean, magic exists, but so does physics. So, like, physically, that's just how the physics. Like, if you say this word and this wizard can cast a fireball without needing divine magic, so your divine magic is just the same thing but in a different flavor. To explain away all of the different interventions and stuff.
There's Pathfinder actually has a proper set concept. You can be an atheist in the Pathfinder setting, and rather than like, I don't believe in the gods, it's like, I acknowledge the gods are real, but what I don't believe in is their power that they have over me as as my own person, as my own individual.
They're powerful just in the same way that Lich is really powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
They've just gone an extra step.
Yeah, so you can actually walk around in the Pathfinder universe and claim to be an atheist. So
makes sense. So let's start moving towards sort of the future of Pesh. We're coming up to, I think, 20 minutes to go or so. So I'll put it out to the channel, the questions of the chat. I know that I've been kind of ignoring the chat, as is my usual with short rests, because I've got a guest to talk to. But I do get to see them if you redeem them with your rude. This is how it is looking. If you redeem them with your copper pieces, you should have at least 50 copper pieces by watching the stream for this long so far, and you can redeem them for a Ask a DM a question, and then it goes into my my requests queue. That way, if you're talking and I miss them, it doesn't get lost entirely. So start submitting your questions for either me or Pesh, or about anything, D&D or whatever, and I'll answer them at the end. So, future of Tales of Pesh. What projects have you got coming up, or what projects would you like to have? What's like blue sky things on the horizon? What do you want to be doing the rest of your life in terms of content creation, music creation? Do you want to pivot again, take up a completely new career?
No. I'm very happy with what I'm doing at the moment. I think on the content creation sphere, I've just realized I have a Patreon release due tonight, so I might work on that today. So I think so I need to write a piece of music and release it by midnight tonight, so I'll get on that. But I think definitely I think I'm going to continue once I finish the current campaign we're running on Twitch. I may not run one on Twitch for a while. I think I may just stream occasionally playing some video games or whatever. if this Patreon release tonight may or may not be the last one, I think I'm gonna wind that up just so I don't have the deadline of having to produce music every month.
Right.
But I'm still gonna keep making music. I'm writing music for I'm self-producing my own JRPG at the moment, my own video game.
Nice.
So
Holy shit.
yeah, I'm constantly writing music for that as well. That's
Jeez,
a
I
while.
can't even imagine where you would start with that. How much work is that? Like, how do you?
It's a lot. I had to learn how to code. So
Jesus, what made you go like, yeah, this is something I'm gonna do?
I don't know actually. Cause I've been working on it for about a year. Why did I do it? I think you know what? You know what it was? I was the Humble Bundles. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's like a website where you can get a bundle of games or software or whatever for a few dollars, and it goes to charity or whatever.
Yeah.
I think sitting in my library for ages, I had like these. There's this series of game engines called RPG Maker, and they're just to make very simple 2D JRPGs, like top-down Pokemon view style ones, kind of thing. Yeah. And I started dabbling in it, and I was like, it's kind of fun. And I was like, I might make my own little game. And I started off. I started making this game called because I really love video games set in hospitality industry. Like there's a game called Overcooked, which I really enjoy. It's like a multiplayer game where everyone
so much fun.
But anyway, I started writing.
Said tomatoes. Why is there a rat in the kitchen? Get the rat. Somebody said, "Oh God damn it! No, it's moving again."
It's too real. But yeah, I started writing this little RPG called Cooked As, and it was just like this dumb thing about in this city where there's a lot of monsters, and you play a slime trying to get a job, and you started at like this job placement agency, and they send you to a restaurant, and you're like this little slime in the big world trying to make your way as a chef fun in this restaurant. And I've actually put that one aside a long time ago. I will return to that game, but now I've been working on this. The game I'm working on at the moment is a JRPG or JRPG style RPG, but basically like you play like this young man who's thrust into the life of being a spice trader after he gets shipwrecked. So he's kind of like this young guy, just super lazy, nothing going for him kind of guy, who has like a very wealthy and affluent family, but doesn't make anything of himself. And his dad sends him on. He's like, you know what? His dad runs like this shipping company. He's like, you're going out on one of these ships and you're gonna work. And then the ship wrecks. He's stranded on an island with some people. Like there's a village there, and basically like he's forced to become a spice trader to try and get home. He starts off with like a very small boat, and you have to. It's like a merchant simulator more than anything. So you kind of like move around, buy and sell things, eventually get a bigger ship, and eventually try and make your way home. So that's
nice.
I've been working on
that. Sounds fun.
That.
And so when did you? So you started like when you? It's like with music. It's just such a different thing that I wouldn't know anything about. You start with the story first of like this is kind of what the story's going to be of the game, and then write that like a scripty kind of thing.
Yeah,
and then
so
work out from that what you need to code. Or
there's so much in it because I just have at the moment I don't have the entire plot of the game in my head at the moment. I'm just like, I need to get a playable demo out. So I'm just at the moment I'm working on chapter 1. So everything from like the beginning of the game up until when he gets shipwrecked, and there's quite a lot in that. It's basically
the intention get a playable demo so that then you can put it out and try and get funding?
Yeah, so I can generate some. Just generate some buzz. Like
just generate interest there.
Yeah, I don't need funding or money or anything to make it. Just like to see if people like it and if it's worth finishing, because it's going to take a long time. So
right.
if I put out the chapter 1 and everyone's like, this is hot garbage, I'll just be like, okay, maybe I'm no good at this.
Cooked as it is then.
Yeah.
Just put that one out. Hot garbage. Well, it's not the me video gaming. It's definitely this type of game. So I'll just put out the.
But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. So most of my creative time at the moment goes towards that, either writing music for it. But incidentally, a lot of the music I write for it is still pretty good for playing D&D too. Yeah. So it's been like a kill two birds with one stone thing. So
yeah. And what is it that you do you stream on Thursdays? Yes, Australia.
We stream on Thursdays. At the moment, we're playing Pathfinder 2E. We've been running a pre-written adventure called Outlaws of Alkenstar, which is a high western, like a steampunk western, which is it's an extremely fun campaign. We're very close to finishing it. We're on the last book. We've got 2 chapters to go.
Nice.
At the moment, the party is bearing down. They're in a fortress with this colossal sized cannon that can shoot hundreds of kilometers, and they've got an army of ogres impending on the fortress, and one of them is being struck by. There's a mana storm happening, which is a violent magical storm, and it's struck one of the ogres. It's now the size of a building in this oncoming army, so it's basically Attack on Titan. So it's, very cool moment. Fun campaign.
Cool.
But,
how many sessions are you expecting for it to get through those last 2 chapters?
We're on session 27, and I think it will finish at around probably 35, I would say.
Right.
Would be, I think, I'm expecting.
Somewhere
so
around there. Give or take.
We're on the home stretch.
And then the future of that after that point, like once you've wrapped that?
Yeah, once we wrap that up, if I do keep streaming, I have no plans for any more D&D campaigns on stream anyway, anytime soon. I'm still running them off stream at the moment, maybe once or twice a week. I've really gotten into Savage Worlds, the Savage Worlds RPG system.
Right.
That's what I've been running lately most of the time, like off stream.
Give us the elevator pitch. What's Savage Worlds?
So it's by a company called Pinnacle Entertainment Group. It's a fairly old system now. I think it's on its 4th or 5th iteration. And basically, the elevator pitch is it's made for fast, action-packed games with as minimal crunch as possible. You don't roll d20s in it. You roll all the dice types except d20s, which is what most people play. They're like, "What's a d20? What are you doing?" It has exploding dice, which is super fun. So pretty much, if you make an attack roll, or if you're rolling for damage or something like that, and you roll the highest number on the dice, you roll another dice. And if you roll the highest number on that again, you roll it again, and you can keep chaining all these big explosions. So it's that, and it has a very fun concept called bennies, which is short for benefits. So you have the DM has a stack of some sort of token, whatever they choose. Poker chips are commonly pretty used. The players start with a pool of 3 each, and throughout the game they can spend these bennies to just re-roll dice at any time. Or there's a couple other things to do. They can spend them to influence a story. They can sort of spend them to like not get wounded and things like that. And throughout the game, the DM just constantly gives them more bennies to spend whenever they like do a good role play cue, or just make. In my games, it's pretty much the players just trying to make me laugh as much as they can throughout the session.
Yeah, sometimes give out inspiration for rerolls when somebody makes a really good pun. That was very good.
So the DM is constantly like flicking these bennies out to the players. The players spend them to reroll dice. It's a very player friendly system in that like players rarely fail at things because like they have all these bennies to reroll dice. And at the same time, your stats as a player, rather than getting like a static bonus to abilities and things like that, like I roll a d20 plus 1 or d20 plus 2 or whatever. Everyone starts rolling d4s for their abilities, and as the stats get better, they roll bigger dice.
D6.
So
D8s.
Yeah.
Which is better for numbers, but worse for the explosions.
Worse for getting the explosions. Yeah. So super interesting and fun system. It's very plug and play. You can run it for any kind of game, whether it's cyberpunk or fantasy, or they have companion books for different concepts like that, but you don't need them. And it's just fast, fun, easy to run as a DM.
So if you continue streaming, if you like after this one's wrapped up, if you continue with your streaming, you might consider Savage Worlds.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've actually run a few sessions of Savage Worlds on stream already, and it works really well. It's very fun. It has very good VTT support on Foundry, so everything's very plug and play and very simple to run. Players can even build their own characters in Foundry without needing like a third-party character builder or anything like that. So it's definitely on the cards.
Nice.
Yeah, in terms of games I'll be running on Twitch in the future. Outside that, I can see myself in the future maybe just playing the games I enjoy, and games that are easy to talk to people while I'm playing. I don't enjoy a lot of game streaming. Sometimes if I'm sitting down playing a video game, I'm usually immersed in it, and it's very hard to engage with chat at the same time. There's a few games where I think I'll be good at. Like I think consider Stellaris is a game I really enjoy running. That's very low touch, or it's very intense, but you can just pause it at any time and talk to the chat.
Catch up with the chat once you realize, I haven't talked to anybody in 10 minutes. I'll do that sometimes when I'm video gaming. I don't do a lot of downtime streams just because I don't have a lot of downtime, but like when I do and I'm video gaming, sometimes I'll just be like, oh shit, I'm on stream. Hey, how's it going, everybody?
That's
hope you're still here.
So I may go back to some game streaming. I can't see myself dedicating 3 or 4 nights a week to streaming again. Just don't have the time.
Yeah, unless something major shifts in the job front.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm gonna keep pushing out YouTube videos as often as I can. It's something I really enjoy, and I really like that people find them useful. And actually, nothing makes me happier than when I release a new video, and within a couple hours, there's people like, yes, finally the new Eberron Historian video, and it's like,
it's great to have a niche of like, if I need Eberron, if I'm ever running Eberron, I know the place to go. Like, I go to Pesh, get a bunch of videos explaining, because that's how YouTube works best for me as a consumer, is when I'm about to prepare a particular session of something, and I'll go, they're going to be coming up against, let's say, a green hag. While I'm making dinner or whatever, I'll just I'll just YouTube green hag and see what channels have put out videos on the lore of green hags, and here's how to use a green hag in your party, and some things about green hags you might not have thought about from the stat block, and you click on those videos and you let them go.
I can't remember the name of it, but there's a really, really good D&D channel for that, for like individual monsters. I forget what it was, but when I saw it,
there's AJ Pickett, I think, something like that is his name. There's Jordan, PH is silent. There's
actually that's the one. Jordan, the PH. I remember that now. Yeah, the PH is silent. That's
really good channel. That's Jordan's on my list of people to eventually reach out to for Short Rest, just because I've enjoyed their videos for a long time now. There's just everybody, like, it's amazing once you get into D&D and you think like gaming, and then tabletop gaming, and then Dungeons and Dragons, and then Dungeons and Dragons content, and you think there must be such a niche. And then you look at it, and you look at all of the people who make Dungeons and Dragons content. There are probably like 1,000 people in the world at least that are like making things on the various different platforms. And you just can't. I'm getting names from people. People are like, I was on Sunso's channel the other day. Never heard the name in my life. I'm like, okay, I might look them up and be like, oh, they've got tens of thousands of followers. Why have I never heard of them? I've been doing this for years as my profession, but I still haven't heard of them just because there's so many people making content.
Yeah.
So it's great in the sense of like, sweet, I'm never going to have to worry about finding Short Rest guests. Reach out to more people and be like, hey, well, how did you get into D&D?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, you've definitely got no end of D&D content creators. I think there's new people joining the sphere every day.
Yeah, new people. I think there was a huge plethora of people joined from COVID as well. Like a lot of the people I've talked to over the years have been like, I got into it during COVID when people needed things to pass the time, and especially like escapism sort of things, to just like pretend to be out and about slaying goblins rather than stuck in my house forever.
Yeah, which is a nice little silver lining to such a rough time for some people. So.
How about any other avenues? Because you've done fucking chef, music, you've done video game creator now. How about writing? You ever had any interest in publishing a book or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's one of the things I'm enjoying about producing the video game is the writing side of it.
Yeah. Writing all the dialogue and writing the story.
Yeah. It's been way more fun than I thought it would be. A lot of work, but I actually writing the dialogue of all the characters is very fun. I'm not sure if I'm going about it the right way. Just sort of the structure of writing it is I'm writing it as I script the scene into the game rather than having a script of the overarching game on the side or something. So I'm not sure if I'm doing that the right way, but we'll find out.
I mean, there's no right way as long as you get it done. As long as it makes the product, there's lots of ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, I really enjoy writing, so I have actually been thinking about ways that I can pivot on that and write something. So we'll see where that goes. Something to think about for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're coming up on time, so I will open up my requests queue and see what questions have been coming in, and we'll ask those then, shall we? Let's see. So we have from the Fancy Unicorn. So Fancy's a mod of mine and one of my editors as well. Like helps me with making short content for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube,
cool.
all of those things. And so she asks, in a short rest soundbite, meaning if you can summarize this into a minute so we can edit it, that'd be great. If people want to try something that's not 5e, what would you recommend people try?
Savage Worlds, actually. As yeah, I would recommend Savage Worlds by Pinnacle Entertainment System. An extremely fun game, extremely player friendly, and extremely tilted towards player success. And just fun for everyone at the table, to be honest. With some very fun concepts, very unique,
very narrative driven,
very unique game mechanics, and and you can use it for anything. You can run any sort of adventure in it. So,
love it.
Highly recommend. And it's very very unsung. It's I'm surprised that like it.
Yeah, it's one of those that I've heard of, don't know anything about. Like I was the other day I was putting together a list of things that I'd played because I was like, I'm getting to a point where I've played a lot of RPGs, mostly just Dungeons and Dragons 5e, but I have dabbled in this and that and the other here and there, and I'm gonna start forgetting them. So I was like, I'll go through and like try and remember what are the TTRPGs I've played, and then while doing the list, I was like, what are the ones I want to play? Like Blades in the Dark is one that I want to play. I've heard a lot about it.
Yeah, that's one I want to play as well. Yeah.
Fate is another one that is like I've never actually played it and stuff. Savage Worlds is on the list as like I've heard the name, don't know anything about it. But yeah, I'll maybe prioritize it a little higher. It sounds like a fun one.
It's worth it. Yeah,
especially with the bennies. The bennies is kind of how I use DM inspiration in the game. It's not just a reroll. I call them hero points rather than inspiration, so that it's less confusing with bardic inspiration. Hero points, and I say like, hey, if you do something amazing, I'll give you a hero point, and then you can cash that in for whatever you want. Like if you need me to, if you're like, oh man, I really should have achieved that rather than failing on the roll of the dice, then I'll just cash it in for turn it into an automatic success instead because it makes more story sense for you.
Yeah, I've actually.
I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I'm gonna hero point it so I get my nat 20 on my death save and get back up again because that's a heroic moment to be like, I'm not down yet, and you stand up and be all heroic. Because I just want my players to feel like heroes.
Something I've actually rolled back since playing Savage Worlds and loving the system. Whenever I do run 5e now or Pathfinder, because Pathfinder has its own sort of inspiration system called hero points.
Yeah.
And I've gone from giving maybe 1 or 2 points out a session per player to like I will take any excuse to give out and to give out an inspiration dice or a hero point to a player. I will just take any excuse now because I've realized that it's players giving the players more agency to be successful is really good for their fun. Which is at the end of the day
and it depends on the story you're playing, I think, as well. Like I don't give out inspiration points if I'm playing like a horror story or something that's designed to be like you're meant to feel like you're in the shit. To feel like you're really struggling against the world and there's a very real chance of death and stuff. And like so depending on like the genre, like if it is a high fantasy swords and sorcery, definitely inspiration all here and there, and like have some ability to actually combat the bad rolls. Yeah, and sometimes you just get on a bad streak. Like I know this from experience. I just cannot roll when I'm a player. I'm notorious for rolling really badly. And like I'll have a character that I've put expertise into a particular thing. I've built him around being a really good liar, and I'll have like a plus 12 deception, and then I'll just roll nothing but things below 5 the entire session. I'll be like, fuck, this guy's meant to be good at this. And so hero points, have rerolls. I will also add in another question of my own here. For another soundbite, because Eberron's kind of your thing, I'm going to say, if you can sum up in a minute, what is the Eberron setting good for?
I say the Eberron setting is good for noir adventures, and they can take place in pretty much any setting that you can think of, just because the Eberron transport system just allows, player characters to be whisked between settings, like, basically in the blink of an eye or in game a few hours. You can go from a city to a jungle to a desert to
a train system and a hot air
because there's a train system or an airship. And it obviously gives way to really creative, I think, points of role play and sort of magic in like the wide magic system in the game just allows to say that you can do the most menial task with magic. Just really gives way to some really like creative points. Like sometimes the players will come up with something that I wouldn't have even thought of in terms of
Right.
I do this with like I
repurpose
grab
this magic item to do something.
yeah, or it's like I grab this kitchen appliance and do this or whatever.
That's one of my favorite things about. That's why I give out a bunch of like magic items. I love to give out low level magic items and like consumable magic items. I love to give out ones that don't recharge and just see what the players do with them, even if they're like quite powerful ones. I'm like, here's a wand of fireballs, but it's only got 2 charges of fireball in it. When are you gonna use it? Here's a scroll of whatever. Here's a magic key that has a 5% chance of opening any lock. What are you gonna do with it? When are you gonna use it? Just give them out, because then sometimes they come up with super like. The sovereign glue is like a legendary item in D&D. I gave it out to my players at like 3rd level once because I just was like, it's not going to break my game. It's only one application of glue, but I want to see what they deem is important enough to stick together. and one time they were fighting a dreadnought fire giant that are the ones with the huge tower shields that are like filled with lava, so that if they hit you, they do bludgeoning, piercing, and fire damage. And this guy like puts them down kind of like a snowplow and just runs across the battlefield. And if you get in the way, you're turned into mush underneath his shield, essentially. And so they were like, okay, you distract him, get him to come to you. And so he did. Bam! Smashed the paladin, critted as well. So he took him from like 100 max hit points down to 0 in a single strike and almost killed the paladin. But at least it distracted him so that the fighter could put the line of glue on the ground. And then he's like, now come for me, you bastard! And he puts his shields down and he rushes towards and he hits the glue and just wham! Fuck, now he's stuck. And this fire giant's still strapped to his shields and he can't move now because he's stuck to the ground, and they run round and they're stabbing him in the back now. And I was like, yeah, man, that's fucking creative as shit. Like,
yeah, it's a good use of it.
Use your items. I love when they come up with creative uses of common magic items. This is a candle that smells vaguely of fish when you light it. Like this. What possible use has it got? I don't know. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a use for it. I'm going to put together some Rube Goldberg machine where I'm going to light this thing and attract a feral cat, and then when the feral cat comes in, I'm going to cage it. And then... all right. Well, next question we got from Joe Baby saying, when did you make the decision to produce your campaigns for YouTube, etc., rather than just play as a group of friends? And did that change how you approached your campaigns, or did you have any pushback from others in the group?
I'd say I've never had pushback from players. They've always been just cool with whatever. But yeah, obviously we went.
So when you started doing it for YouTube and Twitch, it was the same group of friends that you were doing as like a
game
stuff?
No, it was.
You just pitched to them, hey, you mind if we like stream this? And everybody's like, yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. I was like, I just read the Humblewood book, and we'd already, lockdowns have sort of just started, and we're like, oh, guys, we haven't played D&D for a while. Maybe we should get some online games going. And everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, all right, well, I've got this this setting called Humblewood, and I basically put out the wider group of friends, and I just said, who wants in? Like, who wants to play some D&D? And I had four of my friends stuck their hands up straight away, and I was like, and you guys cool if we stream this on Twitch? Could be a bit of fun to do. And they were like, yeah, fine. And then so we ran the Humblewood one, and then that finished, and we started running an Everon one. And I said to the guys, I was like, look, this has been pretty well received, and we've got some viewers on Twitch. Clearly, like, we could, this is pretty fun, and it's like, if you guys are comfortable with it, we could all be on camera and have the 5 of us so we can see, live our reactions as it's happening. And they were 100% cool with that. So yeah, they were on board. And then, we just went with it.
Nice. Seemed to work for you.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah, it didn't have to be forced in any way. It was, it came naturally, and it was cool. A good time.
The last question we have came from Tara regarding your time as a chef, I think. What's your favorite thing to cook, and what do you wish that you could cook?
Probably I enjoy making, Mexican dishes the most. I'm pretty sure. I sort of already did before working at a Mexican restaurant, but once I'd worked at once I worked at an actual like authentic Mexican restaurant, I was like, oh man, this stuff is off the hook. Like, like you'll take a like a pork butt or some beef, and like you put it. It's definitely not. I'm actually a vegetarian now, so I can't do this anymore. But yeah, it's kind of like you'll take an entire chunk of beef and you'll cook it in a pool of lard for 12 hours overnight, and that is like the authentic way to make like beef for Mexican tacos. And it's like, oh man, it's so good. It's
I think it was is it Eddie Izzard? There's a comedian a while back. I think it was Eddie Izzard that talked about how Mexican food is basically the same thing, just folded differently. It's just like it's tortilla, meat, and some vegetables. And
he's not wrong, to be honest.
And they order it, and they're like, "Excuse me, I order an enchilada, not a quesadilla." And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Let me unfold that, re-roll it, just roll it up instead. There you are, as your enchilada."
That's actually that's so accurate. It's funny because like some dishes are defined by what's in them. You know what I mean? Like you can't actually classify you can't actually classify a burrito as a burrito if it like once you've got like a burrito is rice, beans, and cheese generally inside it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once anything else in it,
if you alter it, it becomes something that it changes the name of it. You know, or you lower the burrito into a deep fryer, it becomes a chimichanga.
Just the same things, and then just add this, and it's a different dish.
It becomes something else.
Roll it differently, it's a different dish. Squish it between two plates. It's a quesadilla.
What do I wish I could make?
Yeah, what do you wish you could cook?
Probably something like really complex, like baking, that I've never taken a run at. I know, like my partner really wants to try making croissants.
Oh, right, like, really light and fluffy,
but they're like obscenely complex to make. You basically
so many layered with butter and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, you basically need a refrigerated bench top to do it.
Right.
Yeah, to keep the dough like stable as you're spending hours like getting it to the right point. There's something along those lines. Personally, I don't want to make croissants, but like there's a lot of complex baking stuff.
There's so much stuff
I wish I could do. Yeah,
there's so much stuff that you're like, why would it, like, unless you're enjoying the process, do it for the enjoyment of the process. But otherwise, it's not worth the time and effort that you're putting into it when you can buy the same thing for cheap. I don't know. Like pizza bases is one thing that I'm like, I don't find homemade pizza bases worth the time it takes to make them. If you're enjoying the process, it can be quite a cute like date night to do or something.
Yeah.
But otherwise, just buy a pizza base. Make homemade pizzas for sure, but like just buy a ready-made pizza base. Otherwise, you're wasting so much time making.
Yeah. Actually, something I definitely but this is a Mexican thing again, but it's something that's not easily made is a sauce called mole, which is something I wish I could make easier without so much effort. Getting a lot of the ingredients is hard in the first place, and then making it's not so hard, but it's mostly like. Yeah, it's difficult to make it authentically.
Yeah.
If you don't have like a South American flea market up the street, where you can
right?
pick up the stuff from. So
yeah, I think Mexican's probably one of my, if not the most favorite. I was gonna say genre of food. The culture of food that I like the most is probably Mexican, maybe Italian. I love pasta and pizza. Proper Italian.
Yeah. Actually, that's if I ever go to Europe, I will be like. Food. It'll be a food tour.
I ain't good.
Yeah.
Like I'm not much of a cook or a chef myself. I'm getting slightly better now that I have to. But if somebody presents me good food, fantastic, I'll eat it. But if it comes to me eating, like preparing it for myself, I'd rather have a nutrient tablet that I can take, because I look at the time it takes to cook and stuff, and like the fact that it might take an hour to make something for me because I'm not sure what I'm doing and I'm following a recipe, and so I'm doing it real slow. It'll take an hour, and then it'll take like 10 minutes at most to eat it. I'll be like, that ratio seems off. The enjoyment of what I'm getting from it at the end versus the time it takes to do it. Whereas if somebody gives me food, perfect. So while I was touring Europe, I was eating just way too much ham, bread and cheese in France, and I was eating way too much pasta and pizza in Italy. I was like, man, we should be eating more vegetables. There should be some vegetables here, but when in Rome, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
We had another question coming from Joe Baby. Not sure if we still have time, but if you could choose any one person to play a game with in the D&D world who you haven't yet, who would it be? Good question.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Any one person in the world to play with.
Keith Baker
Keith
springs
Baker,
to mind,
course,
straight away. Yeah, just the creator of everyone, because I'm sure that would be amazing. Who else?
Any of the? Do you have any like starstruck nature for anybody in the D&D world? Any D&D
Oh,
celebrities?
absolutely. Like Liam from Critical Role.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite voice actors.
Liam O'Brien's a fantastic.
Yeah, Liam
voice
O'Brien.
He's also does such a good job with all the roles he takes on in Critical.
Oh, he does.
And the few times that he's done like GMing for them, like one shots and stuff. Fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
like they're all fantastic and great actors, but Liam is just not just his characters on Critical Role are just like give you shivers sometimes. You know that
some of the scenes he's in,
that he
like,
brings.
God,
Yeah.
wow.
But yeah, he's been one of my favorite voice actors for years. Ever since I think he played there was an anime called Ergo Proxy that came out a long time ago, and he played the main character in that. And ever since then, I was like, he's been one of my favorite voice actors. So nice. I think that would definitely be a starstruck D&D moment. I think Vin Diesel I think might be fun playing D&D. Yeah. I know he's a big D&D boy, so
yeah,
I think that would be cool. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, this is unfortunately the time we've got for today. So I'll start to bring us to a close. We've got prospecting to get back to.
Yes. Yes, we do.
So, is there anybody online for a raid that you would like to raid? I always like to give the choice to my guests.
Let's have a look.
Quite a few people online right
now. Nah, no one I know is streaming at the moment, so I will defer to you.
We will go with, let's see. I tell you what, we haven't raided L2S in a while, and he's got 4 viewers at the moment. So let's take him a bunch. L2S _ entertainment. There we are. So with that, we'll have to wrap up. We'll grab our picks and our tools, empty our frosty stouts, and head back to work prospecting. Where can people find you, Pesh?
You can find me over on YouTube is the best place, I would say. Just under Tales of Pesh, where you can find my Eberron documentary series and all my archive of live play. All of our live play stuff as it happens now gets uploaded to Tales of Pesh live play, separate channel. Other than that, you can find my back catalog of music I release and battle maps for D&D over on the Patreon, same name, Tales of Pesh. And we stream on Thursday nights on Tales of Pesh on Twitch TV.
Wonderful. And if you hear from Pesh's community, I'm Robert Hartley GM. You can find me all over the internet, Robert Hartley GM. Thanks for being here. Thank you to the mods for keeping the community safe, everybody. And we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Friends, fans, and fine folk. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part was.